All right, welcome back, everybody. Running a few hours late. Apologies. What we're going to do is quickly go through yesterday's games, hit today's games, and then tonight we'll fire up a football live stream. But this first one's for baseball. If you do want to call in, the beginning of the show is fine. Once I start the decode, I'll move through it rather quickly. I think I've spotted the games that are good today. And then we'll take calls at the end again. But there were, some decent games on the board yesterday in baseball. We talked about how if the Tigers won, it would keep the Orioles on 49 wins because the Orioles go to play the Blue Jays. Blue Jays is 49. So often teams come in with a win or loss that corresponds with the upcoming match. So Orioles did lose, stayed on 49 wins. The Padres in the Brewers game. The Brewers had the date numerology potentially going against them, but they also had the head-to-head record in their favor. And we saw how Davies could get his 43rd career win over San Diego. He was 3-0 versus the Padres. So this was a little bit tighter game, but it seemed like things might be just slightly better for the Brewers based on Davies' career record. The White Sox and Twins. Twins looked great yesterday. They had a chance to go 5-2 at home. Minnesota 52. Again, they hosted Super Bowl 52. It's a number that shows up all the time with Minnesota. They became 5-2. Really liked that game. Berrios had a chance at his 42nd career win. White Sox 42. The Cardinals and the Nationals was a tight one. I said I'd wait and see on this one. It's hard to tell which way yesterday's game was going to go. Cardinals did take it. If the Cardinals won 3 in a row, they would get to 6-1 versus the Nationals this year. St. Louis Cardinals 61. That's not out of the question. That would be quite a statement in this playoff race. The Reds and Cubs. Cubs looked great yesterday. It was about the head-to-head record looking good for the Cubs. It was about the Reds pitcher picking up his 63rd career loss versus the Cubs. So that was there. Hamels' numbers looked good as well. Really liked that game. Mets and Rockies. We talked about how if the Mets didn't win until Game 3, the Rockies would pick up their 39th loss versus the Mets at home on a 39-date numerology. Very possible that is what happens. Talked about how yesterday was the Rockies' 151st game, the 36th prime they could stay on 36 losses. And we talked about how the Mets pitcher, Motts, it looked like he was just so ripe for the loss. He could become 10-9, Rockies 109, and he could get his 35th career loss, Rockies 35. So his team did go down. Again, it was that riddle right there. I'm bolding the things that I think are most important when you guys read over the notes. The Marlins and Diamondbacks game. Diamondbacks stayed on. Diamondbacks could have stayed on 37 home wins on the 37 date. The head-to-head record, a little bit tough to tell. If the Diamondbacks did win, they were going to become. The Marlins were going to become 3-2 versus the Diamondbacks for the year. Marlins 32. That is what happened. Diamondbacks could have picked up the 36th home loss in the 151st game, 151 with 36th prime. But that Lopez pitcher, he was signaling going 5-9, which hits a lot with the Marlins. So this game was a little bit of a teeter-totter. Diamondbacks took it. Royals and Athletics. The A's could pick up the 28th home loss on the 28 date, and they did. The date numerology went against them. I thought, though, the A's were going to take it just because of how much 14 and 41 show up with these two teams in the head-to-head record. So the date numerology was there for a Royals upset, and they did get it done. They had a shot, but I thought that head-to-head record was what was going to prevail. So anyway, the two best games of baseball yesterday, just very clear narratives, were the Cubs and the Twins, done and done, and then Monday Night Football. Monday Night Football, it looked like it was all about the Browns, and boy was it ever. And it was a perfectly scripted game. So remember, Baker Mayfield was looking to improve to 7-8. 7-8. Cleveland 78, New York 78, Trevor Siemian 78. Not only did he improve to 7-8, but he had 325 yards, You got to love the net. 305 yards on 35 attempts. QB equals 35. Browns equals 35. He became 3-5 away. Another thing we were looking at. But those 325 yards. Remember the 78 ritual. Scottish Rite 78. Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. It's 325. You know. And then the first reception of the game by Beckham was 33 yards. MNF 33. New York 33. Cleveland 33. 23-3, 233, the 13th Fibonacci number. Odell Beckham, number 13. The date was 16/9, like 169, which has a square root of 13. All sorts of riddles all over the board. And let me see something. Odell Beckham even equals 233. Forgot to present that last night. For one more 233. No, it's 233. The 13th Fibonacci, the 51st prime. Remember, Darnold was out with mono 51. So they couldn't have scripted it any better. So nice bounce back day yesterday. Sunday was disappointing, but also wasn't awful, you know. Wasn't awful, but was definitely disappointing. So those days do happen, but a lot more good days around here than bad days, that's for sure. Yesterday, another good day, and we'll try to do the same thing today. So that's the review. The baseball games for today. Severino is making his return. First start this year for the Yankees. He could be a big addition for the Yankees. His upcoming birthday is in 156 days, and his name, Luis Severino, equals 156. So, definitely a return by the numbers. The last time the Yankees and Angels played was April 25th, the 115th day of the year. The score of that game was 11-5. The Angels won that game. So, keeping that in mind. And let me see something extra real quick. Let me type in Luis Severino one more time. Luis Severino, it's 168 like New York City. Caller?
Hey, I just wanted to add the reminder. So today is that Verlander with the Bush tie-in game.
Yeah, sure is.
So I just wanted to add, so the Lone Star Series is 62 and 199, 46 prime. That ties in with Houston, Texas is 46 and 62. And what's going on is this is the last game that Verlander should pitch at home in the regular season. So this would be his final shot at that 2-2-3 sink against the Rangers.
Right.
So I'll let you get back to it. I just wanted to add the reminder.
Appreciate it, man. Good reminder. Thank
Thanks.
you. Yeah, we talked about Verlander not winning that last one to set up this Bush tribute. So, anyhow, this Angels and Yankees game, if the Yankees do win, they're going to be 4-1 versus the Angels. LA's 41-14. Very possible. If the Yankees don't lose any in this series, they'll stay on 53 losses. Big number with Los Angeles. This is a 3-game series. Then they got the Blue Jays. Thinking about something. The Angels just won. They'd get to 33 away wins, that New York number. So, a couple of different things to consider. There's no real screaming clues in this game with the pitcher. Suarez comes in 2-6, Yankees 26. You know, we know that another pitcher coming in with the appropriate record. But where they're going to, hard to say. Suarez doesn't have any great sync with beating or losing to the Angels. He does come in on 41 career wins. LA is 41. He could get his 14th home loss, LA 14, or stay on 13. I guess I could see who these guys will pitch against next. So let's see here. Angels schedule. 2, 3, 4, 5. He's going to face the Astros next, Suarez. And he'd have to win his next two. No. Yeah, he'd have to win his next two starts to get to a significant number against Houston. Houston, Texas is 46. So that would be 2 big wins, beating pretty much the top 2 AL teams on the road. Hard to imagine, not impossible. Okay, but yeah, there's something about Severino making this perfect return by the numbers. I guess I'll make these notes here. If Yankees sweep, they will stay on 53 losses. Los Angeles is 53. If Angels win 1, they will have 33 away wins. New York is 33. So it looks like Yankees should win the series. It's just, do they sweep or lose 1? Alright, anyway, there's better games today. The Mariners at the Pirates. Yankees are huge favorites, by the way, today. So the Mariners at the Pirates. Pirates are the favorites in this one. The Mariners could stay on 29 away wins on the 29 date. Pirates could also stay on 65 wins on the 65 date. If Pirates win 2 games, they'll get to 67 wins. 67, the 19th prime, Seattle 19. So I think that is possible. The Pirates take 2 in this series. Today, the Pirates are 6-8 versus the Mariners all time. If they split the next 2 games, they would be 7-9. PNC Park, the stadium's 79. Pirates are 2-5 at home versus the Mariners. The Mariners have struggled versus the NL. They're 6-11. The Pirates have done well against the AL. They're 12-5. Standout stat with the pitcher, though, is Gonzalez for the Mariners. His next career win is 34, and Pirates is 34 in the most pure cipher. Out of all the riddles on the board, that is the most interesting. But looking at the fact that the Pirates very well could win the series, makes that one a little bit tricky. Keller's 1-4 for the season in career. He's 0-1 at home. Let me see one more thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Keller will face the Brewers next. And it's hard to say. Let's see. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Marco Gonzalez faces the Orioles next. And see. PNC Park is 34 as well as Pirates. I forgot that. So I'm going to punch that in here too. So Gonzalez could get his 34th career win against the Pirates and at PNC Park. And good chance they split today and tomorrow. So Marco Gonzalez has the most interesting riddle, I think. The Blue Jays and the Orioles. The Blue Jays could pick up their 29th away win on the 29-date numerology. The contradiction is the Orioles are 7-7 versus the Blue Jays. If they won today and tomorrow, they would get to 9-6. We've seen a lot of 96 the Orioles this year, especially in scores. So date numerology favors Blue Jays. Head-to-head record, the clearest riddle in there that I see is if the Orioles win 2. Thornton comes in 5-9. Of course, Toronto Blue Jays is 59. Orioles is 96. If he won, he'd be 6-9, the reflection of 9-6. Something to consider. It's also the 29-date numerology, which is the 10th prime. He could pick up his 10th loss. And this Shepard, he's making his first start of his career. Today is 23 days after his birthday, and Blue Jays is 23. So, makes that a little bit tricky. Date numerology favors Blue Jays. Thornton, his riddle, not real clear. I might just wait and see. I'd say if the Orioles won today, I think that would be a good sign for them tomorrow to do the 9-6 thing. But if they lost today, then that riddle would be off. So, okay, the Tigers and the Indians. We still don't have a Tigers pitcher. The Indians can pick up the 45th home win. The Tigers can stay on 45 wins, and Cleveland can pick up the 45th win in the AL Central. We have 45-date numerology today. Cleveland is 7-0 at home this year versus Detroit, meaning they have a streak of 7 wins there. If they won again, it would be the 8th straight. We've seen so many streaks of 8 this year. 19, the 8th prime number. 19, the 8th prime. Plutko, he's 6-4 for the season. With a win, he'd be 7-4. Indians is 47, the reflection. We do have the 65-date numerology. This is the one thing that I see that could go against the Indians. However, if Plutko wins, his next career win would make him 11-9. Indians 119. In the second half, Plutko is 3-6. If he lost, he'd be 3-7, like Detroit 37. That stat's weaker though. You know, him becoming 7-4 makes sense for the season. 11-9 for career makes a lot of sense. I wish we had the Tigers pitcher here, but just looking at the way the date numerology is as well, plus the streak of 8, which we've seen so much of, things are looking a bit better there for the Indians. But hopefully they'll give us that Tigers pitcher before we're done with the live stream. The Giants and the Red Sox. Boston, pretty big favorite at home here. Boston is 11-5 versus the Giants this year. They're 11-5 all time, and 5-0 at home all time. San Francisco 50. First game of 2019. What stands out with Webb is if he won, he would be 2-2. We see a lot of 22 in Boston, so that's a potential upset narrative right there. Eovaldi could stay on 45 career wins on the 45 date. Eovaldi's next win with Boston, however, would make him 5-3. So that's hard to ignore because Boston Red Sox 53, number that hits a lot with the Red Sox. It's possible he could get a no decision and improve to 5-3 at a later date. But I would imagine that Eovaldi's next decision would be a win for this right here. And Eovaldi's 2-4 versus the Giants. Giants does equal 25-34. That 25 hits a lot more, but the 34 does play sometimes. Case in point just happened this weekend with Buffalo. Not Eovaldi. Josh Allen could have become 2-5 away at the Giants, but instead he became 3-4. That's why you got to remember your rule with S. So Eovaldi's 5-1 pitching at Fenway. The only way I could see this 53 not hitting is if it was about him losing his next 2 starts at Boston to fall to 5-3. But Giants, they definitely have an upset riddle through Webb. Just Boston in 22 comes again and again. So something to consider. The head-to-head record, you know, there's nothing clear for which way it could go today. All right, the Phillies at the Braves. The Phillies are in win or go home mode right now. They're on the verge of being eliminated from the playoffs. It's going to have to take some heroics in Atlanta, but looking at the narrative today, it does not look good for the Phillies. Braves do have some date numerology going against them. They can get the 29th home loss on the 29 date. Phillies could also pick up the 38th away loss on the 38 date. Atlanta could stay on 45 wins versus the NL East on the 45 date. Phillies does equal 45-45, so that's something to keep in mind. If the Phillies came in here and swept Atlanta, it would have to be this. Staying on 45 wins in the NL East versus the Phillies. Phillies is 45 in both reduction ciphers. Remember, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania is 118. Philadelphia, PA is also 118. Braves are 8-8 versus the Phillies this year. If one team swept, that record could end up being 11-8. And the Braves are 4-2 at home versus the Phillies. If they did lose 3 in a row, they would become 4-5. Again, Phillies is 45 in both reduction ciphers. Major League 45, big number. Velazquez on the mound for the Phillies. You can make an argument for away win or loss, so nothing clear there. But when you look at Keuchel, it's hard to imagine the Phillies winning looking at Keuchel's riddle. Keuchel can improve to 9-5 for the season. Braves is 95. Keuchel could get his 45th home win of his career. Phillies 45-45. Plus you got the 45 date numerology. And to date, Keuchel is 2-1 versus the Phillies. In 4 starts, he has a 1.42 ERA, so pretty good history. If he lost, he'd be 2-2. If he won, he'd be 3-1. Braves is 22-31. Again, the Phillies riddles have been so strong all year. The way they've done riddles alongside the Phillies and Yankees. If the Phillies don't make the playoffs, I got to ask what that was all about. Why did they run those parallels between these teams all year? But remember that wild card game is on 10-1, 101, Philadelphia 101. If they were able to sweep the Braves, which is a tall task, they'd still be in the hunt. But if I wasn't paying attention to any of that, I'd be looking at Keuchel's numbers and thinking, man, Keuchel's riddle looks pretty good to win today. So the Padres and the Brewers. Brewers could pick up the 45th home win on the 45 date. And Brewers does equal 45, by the way. The Brewers are 71-78 versus the Padres all time. Their next loss will be 79. Doesn't have to come today, but that will be a symbolic number. San Diego Padres is 79. The Brewers are 42-36 versus the Padres at home. San Diego's 43, Milwaukee's 37. Makes me wonder if they could split the next 2 games to get that symbolism in the record. The Brewers are 1-3 versus the Padres this year. 1-3. And hard to say which way it goes. San Diego Padres does have the 83 connection, the 23rd prime. 41's the 13th prime. We know about M and 13, the Brewers, the M on the cap. What stands out, though, with the pitchers is Paddock with a loss would be 9-8 for the season. Milwaukee Brewers is 98. Typically, riddles like that come through. His narrative to win would be to get that 10th win on the 29 date numerology, 29 the 10th prime. Woodruff can also get his 12th win of the season in Milwaukee. Milwaukee 37 the 12th prime, so that makes some sense. So hard to ignore that 9-8 record against the most perfect team. Good place to pick up the 12th win for Woodruff. I think those are the strongest riddles on the board. Plus the Brewers, again, got the date numerology on their side as well. The White Sox at the Twins. The White Sox could stay on 65 wins on the 65 date. They come in on 85 losses, Twins 85. So Minnesota is now 5-2 at home. And again, Minnesota equals 52. It gets tricky when it gets to this point, though, because Minneapolis equals 62. Target Center, where they play, equals 53. Yesterday's score was 5-3. Let me write this down. Twins' next win is 93. Remember this. White Sox equals 93. Minneapolis, Minnesota equals 93. Minneapolis on the 93rd Meridian West. Gotta spell Minneapolis right. Okay, so that 93 should be symbolic. And let me even run. I don't normally like to look at the name of the pitchers, but let's just make sure neither pitcher has a 93 connection. Detweiler's got 167 connection, 39th prime. Martin Perez. 62. Just make that note here that Martin Perez is 62 and his team could get to 6-2 tonight. Okay. So what worries me about Detweiler is he's 2-5 for the season. If he won, he'd be 3-5. Chicago 35. He could also get his 29th career away loss on the 29 date numerology. Just make an argument either way there with him. Perez is 10-7 for the season. Target Fields 107. He's 53-56 for his career. White Sox does equal 57. And Perez is 3-2 versus the White Sox. White Sox does equal 42 if he became 4-2. So head-to-head record's unclear. Twins should get that 93rd win. Does it come today or does it come tomorrow? Hard to say. So Minnesota pretty big favorite, but I couldn't feel confident in my pick with this game. It worries me that the score was 5-3 yesterday, and the Twins could become 5-3 versus Chicago. And that's another note that actually should be up here. Chicago's 35. So if Chicago won, they'd be 3-5 at Minnesota, and Detweiler would become 3-5. Which is a lot like yesterday's score. For your dollar parlay, I would definitely think about the White Sox as a multiplier. Okay, the Nationals at the Cardinals. So the Cardinals could pick up the 29th home loss on the 29-date numerology. That's something to consider. The Cardinals are 4-1 versus the Nationals. Remember, if the Cardinals win the next two, they'll get to 6-1. St. Louis Cardinals is 61. But if they lost the next two, they'd become 4-3. St. Louis is 43. DC is 4-3. D the fourth, letter C the third. So it's not out of the question. These teams are battling for the playoffs. Looking at the pitchers, Corbin, if he didn't lose today, he would stay on 61 career losses against St. Louis Cardinals, 61. Mikolas has a chance at his 10th win of the season. Again, 29-date numerology, the 10th prime. And if Mikolas did get the win today, he'd get his 28th win with the Cardinals. Washington Nationals, 107, the 28th prime. We've seen a lot of those 10-7 riddles with the Nationals. The prime number relationship, it's there, but it's not quite like that 10-7, which we know is about as close to a lock as you can get. So I said yesterday it was a tough call. I said today might be a tough call as well. Again, it's because of that head-to-head record. If Cardinals do win today, well, there'd still be one more thing to think about even tomorrow. If Cardinals won today, they'd be one win from getting to 6-1, but then you'd have to consider the 2-5 as well, because St. Louis is also 25. So yeah, the series just isn't going to be easy unless we get a really strong riddle through the pitcher. So, to me, things look a little bit better for Mikolas here today, but there's still the chance Corbin stays on those 61 losses. All right, Reds at Cubs. We talked about the Cubs winning yesterday and today to even this series up at 9-9. Wrigley's 99, Illinois 99, Cubs is 9. Cubs are 4-3 versus the Reds at Wrigley. That means the Reds, by losing today, can become 3-5 in Chicago. Chicago 35. So you have that Chicago 35 riddle in both Chicago games today, the White Sox and the Reds. And it favors both Chicago teams today, too. All right. Sonny Gray, there's nothing super clear in his stats. Darvish, he comes into this game 6-6, Cincinnati 66. He could stay on 51 career losses today. Cincinnati's 51, good team to stay on 51 career losses against. He could get his 8th win with the Cubs, Reds 19, the 8th prime. He could stay on 26 home losses, Reds 26. And between the head-to-head record and some things looking nice for Darvish, got to go with the Cubs again. The Rangers and the Astros. Again, this is the last. We were able to peg a big upset because we saw that Verlander, it would make more sense for him to get his 223rd win in this game than the last game. We talked about how Verlander posed with the Bushes after the Astros beat the Dodgers in the World Series, the two President Bushes, and how the Bush family used to run the Rangers team. And, of course, the Bush family, they're part of Yale, Skull and Bones, 3-2-2, the reflection of 2-2-3. Verlander can get his 223rd career win tonight against the Rangers in Minute Maid Park, 2-2-3. Definitely think that's the strongest riddle on the board for this game. Houston's a big favorite. When Verlander's had these big lines, he's lost a few of them this year. So even if you're doing a dollar parlay, even though I like Verlander to win tonight, for your dollar parlay, I might even think about throwing the Rangers in there just because Verlander squandered so many of these big things. But I do fully expect Verlander to get the 223rd win. It's just those dollar parlays. If you do them smart and they come through, they can buy you your next 100 parlays at the dollar price. So something to consider. But Rangers should pick up the 45th away loss today. Astros should get the 45th home win today. So the 45 goes against the Rangers and for the Astros. Rangers 45th away loss of the season. Astros 45th home win versus the Rangers all time. And Astros can win 8 in a row at home versus the Rangers this year. Two teams doing that today with the possibility of doing that. 19 the 8th prime, so many streaks to 8. The devil's advocate narrative is the Astros lost, they'd be 7-1 versus the Rangers at home, like 71 the 20th prime. Astros is 20. Lynn's riddle to upset today is to become 43 and 43 away. Astros does equal 43. That's your thought about that dollar parlay. But again, Verlander's going for the 223rd win. We talked about this a week in advance. Minute Maid Park 2-2-3. Doing against the Rangers, which the Bush family used to run, and we've seen plenty of riddles with Papa Bush and the Rangers this year. Verlander's next home win is also 112, and Houston equals 112, so there might be some sort of greater symbolism to that too. Yeah, somebody just sent a text message to remind about the Cubs in 108, how they ended their World Series drought at 108, how the Sears Tower is 108 stories tall, and they're probably talking about how Gray can fall to 10-8 for the season by losing in this game against the team that broke the 108-year curse. So Sears Tower, 108 stories tall. I think they call it Willis Tower now. Willis Tower, and if I remember right, it's 57 like World Series. Yeah, 69 like World Series too. Back then I didn't know reverse. All right, so let's see what else is going on here. All right, Mets at Rockies. Stroman. Let's see. Okay, so we talked about how if the Rockies won the first 2 games yesterday, they'd stay on these 38 losses versus the Mets, and then they could pick up the 39th loss in Game 3 on the 39 date numerology. 39, that big New York number. 38, that big Colorado number. The Rockies are now 2-2 versus the Mets in 2019. If they split the next 2, they be 3-3. I don't know why I didn't write that down. So just some possible scenarios to think about here. Anyhow, if Stroman lost today, he'd get his 14th loss of the season. Colorado's 43, the 14th prime. I see another thing I can write here. Colorado is also 83, the 23rd prime. He could be 2-3 with Mets. Stroman could be with a loss. Stroman's 49-47 for career. He's 24-23 away. He could become 24-24. Mets is 24. And he could also get his 21st loss in the second half. Colorado Rockies 73, the 21st prime. I guess to play devil's advocate, Colorado's 83, the 23rd prime. I like the full team name though. So things look better here for a Stroman loss than win. And this Tim Melville, he's looking for his first win at home. He's 0-2 at home, but the Mets would be the perfect team to get that first win against because Mets is 12. And the most pure cipher, Mets is 12. Could improve to 1-2 at home by beating the Mets. So I like the idea of the Mets picking up that 39th win tomorrow on the 39-day. And I like that Moore lines up against Stroman. And I like Melville becoming 1-2 at home by beating the Mets. All right, the Marlins and the Diamondbacks. This one's a little iffy. The D-backs could stay on 38 home wins. Again, staying on a number is never a great indicator. Tomorrow we'll have the 39-date numerology, Arizona 39. D-backs next loss to the Marlins all-time 68, Miami Marlins 68. If the D-backs won today and tomorrow, they would get to 49 wins at home. Marlins 49. If the Marlins won today, they would be 4-2 versus the Diamondbacks this year. Arizona's 42, Diamondbacks is 42. Seen a lot of that with Arizona. Young, who's on the mound, he could become 8-4, Arizona 84, or 7-5, Diamondbacks 75. If he did win today, he'd be 3-2 at home, Marlins 32. So, pretty back and forth type of riddle in my opinion. Definitely couldn't call this the safest game. Marlins' next loss is 99, and of course Arizona Diamondbacks is 99, so that next loss is all but certain. It's just it doesn't have to come today. And maybe what we should do is actually look at who Young will face next. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's going to face the Cardinals next. So if he got a no decision, he'd actually stay on 7-4. St. Louis is 74. Young faces St. Louis next. St. Louis equals 74. Guess we can do the same thing. They're going to play the Padres next. If the Diamondbacks won the next two, they'd go into that Padres series 79-74. San Diego Padres is 79. San Diego 74. Let's make a note about that too. If D-backs won next two, they would be 79-74 for season. San Diego Padres 79, San Diego 74. So that would make some sense. How about the Marlins? One, two. They're going to play the Nationals next. And they're going to play them at home. It's hard to say. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Caleb Smith's going to face the Mets next. If he was 10-10 after facing the Mets, that could make a little bit of sense because when you write out 10, it's 39 like New York, but it doesn't have to go that way. Yeah, this one's tricky. This one's a roll of the dice in my opinion. I do like that Young could become 3-2 at home versus the Marlins, and looking at if the Diamondbacks did win the next two, but then they would. Well, yeah, it's tough. But if the Diamondbacks did win the next two, they would go into that Padres series with the perfect record. So that might be the winning clue right there. There's still some things to consider. So again, I will post these notes. So they are in the description right now, but I'll post the updated notes too as soon as we're done with the video if you want to comb them over one more time. The Royals and the Athletics. So the Athletics lost with the date numerology yesterday. Could they lose 2 days in a row with the date numerology? These are big losses right now for the Athletics. They are fighting for the playoffs. The A's are now 3-2 versus the Royals this year. If they split the next two, they would, from one team's perspective, they would be 3-4 or 4-3. Athletics is 34-43 and 43. 14th prime, KC 14. So it's possible the A's are going to drop another game here to the Royals. And you know what? Royals is 90. They're on those 90 wins right now. I guess the A's would have to lose the next two to become 3-4 against them rather than split. That'd be something if... God, if the Royals won both... I'm realizing if the Royals won both, they'd get to 58 wins. Oakland's 58. If they lost the next two, they'd get to 97 losses. Athletics 97. Oakland Athletics 97. There are some things to consider here. This Lopez... He's 6-6 away for his career. If he lost, he would be 6-7. Kansas City's 67. Anderson is 12-9 for the season. He could get his 13th win tonight. KC 13. 139, the 34th prime. Athletics 34. Anderson, he could get his 59th career win tonight. Kansas City Royals 59. We see that number a lot with the Royals. So that's a good sign for Anderson right there. And his next loss in the second half is 27. Royals 27. He's 2-1 versus the Royals. Oakland's 22-31. So out of all the stats on the board for Anderson, this one is the strongest. That Royals 59 connection shows up a lot. I would definitely throw the Royals in on your dollar parlay multiplier, though. They have a shot. So it's not out of the question, but this is really hard to ignore for Anderson right here. So if Royals won next two games, they would have 58 wins. And Oakland's 58. If Royals lost next two games, they would have 97 losses. Athletics 97. Oakland Athletics equals 97. A's would stay on 90 wins. Royals 90. Okay. And then the Rays at the Dodgers. Dodgers not as much of favorites as you might think they would be at home. The Dodgers are 9-6 versus the Rays all time. If they did lose, they'd be 9-7, like 97, the 25th prime. Tampa Bay's 25. Tampa could improve to 7-9. Tampa Bay is 79 as well. So you got two things in the head-to-head that don't look bad for Tampa Bay here. Caller?
Zach?
Yeah.
Due to the stream, I was wondering, what does that mean when you're talking about the dollar parlay multiplier?
Yeah, so what a lot of people do who follow this work is they'll just bet like $1 a day, or they'll do a $5 bet, and they'll put together some of the riskier teams with the upsets. And, of course, those are risky. They don't come through a lot, but when they do hit, they pay big. So there's guys here who have turned $1 into $200 on parlays like that. And if you think about it that way, when those hit, that means your next $199 parlays are on the house. So these teams that are unlikely to win but are big payouts, I always suggest taking your strong games and making a small parlay card with the strong picks, and then just throwing some of the riskier picks with it, and then that's where you can turn the dollar into, $25, $50, $100 or more. You see what I mean?
Oh, so that sounds like that's the best way to do it.
Well, that's how a lot of people do it around here. They don't bet a lot, and they make those risky small bets. That way when they lose, they just laugh about it, not a big deal. But when they hit, they're like, look at that. I just paid for my next 50 picks. So.
Yeah, cool, man. I'm going to try that. Thank you.
All right, yeah, you're welcome. Good luck, man. Okay, so anyhow, looking at the head-to-head here, things look good for Tampa Bay. Dodgers can become 9-7 versus the Rays, 97 the 25th prime. Tampa Bay's 25. Tampa could also improve to 7-9 from their perspective. Tampa Bay's 79. Again, that's why you want to know your ciphers, and that's why you want to get out and use this calculator. So that's right there in the head-to-head. I wish these teams were in the same division. Head-to-head records, they always matter. It seems like when they're in the same division, they're more consistent. The Dodgers are 4-1 at home versus the Rays. If they lost, they'd be 4-2 at home. Los Angeles Dodgers is 181, the 42nd prime. Snell, he's 38 and 27 for his career. He could stay on 38 wins on the 38 date numerology. He's 20 and 6 in the second half. His next win is 21. Los Angeles Dodgers, 73 the 21st prime. I just jotted that down. A lot of times I'll just jot notes down just so you get in the repetition of remembering the numbers, the prime number relationships. There's anything real clear there for this game off that. Stripling, the Dodgers pitcher, 4-4 for the season. If he lost, he'd be 4-5 on the 45 date numerology. Dodgers does equal 45. Stripling could get his 25th career loss. Tampa Bay's 25. He's 12-8 at home. He's 6-13 in the second half. Guess one more thing I thought about there is Tampa Bay Rays 43 the 14th prime. So, to me, it looks like the Rays definitely got a shot in this game tonight. I wish there was something stronger there with Snell. Let's look at who he faces next. Let's see who he faces next. Let's see. Whoops, I'm on the NFL. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, he's got the Red Sox next. Well, hey, I'm glad we just looked at that. All right, so Snell faces Boston next. Boston equals 77. Red Sox equals 77. Snell can go into Boston with a 7-7 record with a win tonight. Caller?
Hey, I just wanted to add something about this line. So the minus 135, I saw this yesterday twice. We had the Orioles minus 135, they lost. We had the Nationals minus 135, and they lost as well. And it just seems very odd. Like, why the hell would the Dodgers be minus 135 at home with the best record?
I mean, the Rays do have a good record, but it just seems like they normally get bigger lines. So
yeah,
what you just said
is totally off.
What you just said is a database that I just realized how much better data we could keep if we wrote down lines every day and just kept track of what lines were for wins and losses. Like I think there's probably a lot of value in that. There might be something to, a language to these lines themselves. So
well, there's also something to when the line opens up versus how it is right before the game. So,
right.
for instance, last night, the Astros game, they opened minus 285, and then they shot all the way up to like minus 360 at one point. And
right.
they're like around minus 350.
Right.
And I've seen it. So there was that like extra inning game with the Brewers and Nationals a while back. It went like past midnight, and I forget how many innings it was. It was like 15 or 16 innings, something like that. And the next day, I believe it was something like Chase Anderson or something like that pitching, and it opened up, and initially they were favorites. And like the alignment looked pretty decent for the Brewers at first glance. But then as it got closer to the game, they became like heavy underdogs. And then they got totally blown out. So there's definitely something to the line movements.
Yeah, indeed.
But I just want to add that minus 135 thing. It's like a trap, it feels like.
All right. Appreciate it, man.
All right, thanks.
Okay. All right, so let's review the games again one more time real quick. I think Yankees at Angels is pretty dangerous. There's not a lot to bite into. Yankees are heavy favorites, so they don't pay much. Do pay attention to what Severino does tonight. His name equals 156. It's 156 days to his birthday. He could be a big difference maker for the Yankees here in the postseason. And the Mariners at Pirates. Mariners are underdogs on the road. The Mariners do squander a lot of riddles, but looking at Marco Gonzalez, he has the perfect opponent tonight for his 34th career win. Pirates 34, PNC Park 34. Hard to ignore. Talked about the Pirates potentially winning 2 games in this series to get to 67 wins. 67 is the 19th prime. Seattle's 19. By the way, tomorrow's Roberto Clemente Day. Great pirate who died in a plane crash. Caller?
Hey, what's up, Zach?
What's up, man?
So yesterday, one thing I saw, I was paying real attention to the Kansas City game, and they flashed a stat that the A's were 23-7
against the division I guess the Royals play in.
Huh.
That might be the West. So then
AL Central.
I'm like, okay, 23-7. I bet on the Royals to come back, and they came back like that. So if they lose again today, it would be 23-9.
Like 239 the 52nd prime, 23 the 9th prime. All right, so let's look at that. Oakland versus the AL Central. They are 23-8. They could fall to 23-9.
What?
Did you have more of a thought on the 23-9 besides what I just said?
No, just that specifically. But one other thing, just before I forget, Drew Brees in that game, he got injured. He wound up finishing throwing for 38 yards. So that was like a good sign.
Well, how do you mean that a good sign about the 38 yards?
Well, just the Florida connection with the 38, and also if you paid, if you caught it in the final score, I don't know if you did or not, the 29-7. So that ties in, I believe it's 27-9, but that ties in the Jesuit order. That's September 27th.
Right.
So
that's a great
that
point.
plus the 38. Once I saw that, I was actually feeling pretty good because you got to assume once he went down, I thought all my futures went in the drain, you know.
Well, it's somebody called me about that this morning, and I said, well, think about this. He's an older man. He's going to get to take 6 games off. And anybody who watches that replay of Breeze, you can see that his thumb does not hit Donald's hand at all. His thumb does not come in contact with Donald's hand, so you know that the injury's fake. By the way, the word injury equals 38 as well for his 38 yards.
Yeah.
But think about it. If the Saints are competitive while he's gone, imagine if they go into Seattle and win next week, you know. Anyway, he'll be rested up. He's an older man. It's just like the year Brady won Super Bowl 51. He got to skip the first 4 games of the season, so he got to stay a little bit more rested. They could end up saying...
And even Bridgewater's got that Miami connection, too.
Right.
From playing in Miami. And also this year, he turned down a starting job in Miami to play the backup role for Breeze.
Yeah. So something's going on there.
So why would you do that unless you get the Super Bowl ring, right, Zach?
I agree. So,
one more quick thing before I get off the phone. How are you feeling about the Phillies? Do we still feel like this could happen?
Well,
it's only like 14 games.
I think we're going to get our answer today. If and things don't look good for the Phillies today, but I think the Phillies got to win at least 2 out of 3 in this series to have a chance. A sweep in this series, and they'd be right there. But I don't know, man. By them not picking up those wins against Boston, it did not look good. So.
Yeah. I think this series is make or break. I just wanted to see what you thought about it. But yeah, either way, it was a good day. Thank you. And that Kansas City Royals, I applied what you've been teaching with that 65. I saw the score was at 4-4. It wasn't 100%, but I was feeling the 65 for the Oakland Athletics.
Yeah.
So I just took a lot at Kansas City Royals last night.
Smart, man. Yeah, good work.
Appreciate it.
All right, take care, man.
Thank you, Zach.
Welcome. Yeah, that's where by knowing the numbers, by studying these charts, Oakland Athletics equals 56 and 65. That's what he's talking about. And don't forget that the Athletics used to be in Kansas City, and before that they were in Philadelphia. So there's a historical narrative. Actually, by the way, is Homer Bailey pitching tomorrow? Because we know Homer Bailey's not losing. Homer Bailey will not lose tomorrow. Kansas City equals 148. That's how we had him to win his next game. So yeah, there's no way the Royals are going to win the next 2 games. I shouldn't say no way, but very slim chance. All right, hold on. I got to make sure. When we come back and review, I got to get this point in about Homer Bailey because it looks like A's should win tomorrow. So that's part of our analysis. All right, so we're just reviewing again one more time. Strongest riddle in this Mariners and Pirates game to me is that Gonzalez can get that 34th career win because Pirates is 34 and so is PNC Park. Blue Jays and Orioles. Blue Jays got the date numerology. Orioles, I think they got the little bit better head-to-head narrative. So, not a big fan of this game today. Tigers at Indians, the date numerology is all for the Indians. We still don't have the Tigers pitcher. Cleveland can begin 8-0 at home versus Detroit this year. So many streaks of 8. Be the 8th straight win in Cleveland over Detroit. And to me, Plutko looks a little bit better for a win than a loss. There are a couple concerning things there, but date numerology screams Indians. head-to-head record. It'd be the latest streak of 8 in baseball. Again, it's 2019. 19's the 8th prime. A lot of streaks of 8. Giants definitely have a chance at an upset today. The Riddles through Logan Webb. He could improve to 2-2 for the season. Boston's 22. And Eovaldi, he's a teeter-totter. You can make an argument either way. Not a whole lot to go off of in this game, though. But upset Riddle is there through Logan Webb, who could become 2-2. Boston 22. A lot of Boston 22 Riddles we uncover season after season. Phillies at Braves. Again, Phillies are in make or break mode. You know, they are on the verge of elimination. And looking at Keuchel's riddle today, it does not look good for the Phillies. Keuchel can improve to 9-5 for the season. Braves is 95, and he can get his 45th home win. Phillies 45 date numerology. I mean, that looks pretty good as far as pitcher riddles go. So, only way I see the Phillies winning is if it really is about them getting into the playoffs. They've gotten the riddles all year, and yeah, sometimes teams get riddles, and the riddles are like channeling through that team, but it's really for somebody else. It's just, Phillies don't make it. I will be scratching my head a little bit, so they got to do something. But looking at Keuchel tonight, I mean, that's a pretty good pitcher riddle for a W. Padres at Brewers. Brewers can pick up the 45th home win on the 45 date. Brewers equals 45. And if Paddock loses, he'll be 9-8 for the season. Milwaukee Brewers 98. And if Woodruff wins, he'll get his 12th win of the season. Milwaukee 37, the 12th prime. So date numerology and pitcher riddles look good for Brewers. Caller?
Zach, what's up?
What's up, man?
Hey, I was watching your live stream. Sorry, I'm not at work right now. But for that Indians Tigers game, Pluto, he can go 6-5. Philadelphia's equals 65, and he plays Phillies next.
Pluto's going to face Philadelphia next?
Yes, Pluto faces Philadelphia next, and he's 6-4.
Well, that's a really great observation. Today also has the 65 date numerology. That's the one thing going against Pluto. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, you're right. He faces the Phillies next. Yeah, great observation.
Yeah, and then another one. Blake Snell for Tampa Bay. He plays Boston.
7-7.
Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. You saw that already?
I like that one. I do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really like those two. And then, shit, that's all I got right now.
Well, I'm really glad you caught that about the Phillies. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm literally at work right now. I actually live in Vegas, so.
Yeah. That's a great catch. All right, thanks, man.
All right, man.
All right, take care.
Later, Zach.
All right, so yeah, that's a very good catch. So Pluto could fall to 6-5 on the 65 date numerology. Pluto faces Philadelphia next. Philadelphia is 65. We've seen so many pitchers do the 65 thing with Philadelphia. If he got a no decision, he could also become 6-5 versus Philadelphia. So that's just my one concern about Pluto. I wish we had the other Tigers pitcher in here. When I come back on for football, what time does this game start? Well, this will already have started. You might have to keep your eyes peeled on the Tigers pitcher. There's still some positive signs here for the Indians. The date numerology is all Indians. You know, you could have another streak of 8 games. Pluto's career record could make sense, but yeah, him going in 6-5 to Philadelphia, we've seen a lot of that. Caller?
Yeah, and the 14-game streak too, Zach, on the Indians.
Are they going for 14 straight?
Against Detroit. No, they already did it.
So they've won 14. I skipped that. Okay, well now that's a huge one too, so the streak could end right there. All right, appreciate that. All right, thanks. Let's see. Pluto. All right, hold on. Let me get that up here real quick. Hold on. I know they've won 7 at home. I think that is right because I think Detroit won the very first game of the season, or maybe it was the second. Lost every single one since then. One second while it's loading. Just want to double check. Caller?
Zach, check this Chris. He just put the picture for Detroit just now. His name is Z Zingler or something like that.
Zingler.
Yeah, Zingler. I think that's his name. His first name starts with a Z though.
Okay, I'll look it up. I appreciate that.
All
right, thanks, man. Caller?
Yeah, Zach, have you heard the story about Felipe Vasquez, the Pirates pitcher?
No.
So he just got arrested for solicitation of a minor, 15-year-old girl. And Felipe Vasquez, in the reverse full reduction, is 54. Pedophile is 54 in the full reduction. Pedo equals 22 in the full reduction. His last birthday had 22-day numerology, and it's been 10 weeks and 4 days since his last birthday. Pedo's 14 in the reverse full reduction. And then tonight, the Pirates can get their 86th loss against the Mariners. And then number 73, because that's his number, equals 86 in the full reduction.
Very good work. I'm already liking the Mariners because of Marco Gonzalez riddle. So, that's a great observation.
All right, thanks.
All right, appreciate it. Okay, so Cleveland has won 14 straight games. So often streaks will end at 14. End, the word equals 14. Every now and then they go past there, so I'll just give you one devil's advocate narrative. Indians is 47 the 15th prime if they got the 15th straight win. But hold on, now that we got a pitcher in there for the Tigers, let's see. And the fact that Pluko could go into Philadelphia 6-5, man, we've seen just so much of that. Where'd the Tigers game go? All right, they didn't put it up there. Let's go to MLB.com and see if they got it. Reininger, Zach Reininger, number 26. All right, let's get this guy's stats up here. Oops, wrong one. All right, so I'm going to plug in his numbers real quick. Reininger is 0-2 for season. First start. So he's a middle reliever. Reininger is 1-2 for career. All right, I know Detroit Tigers is 79 the 22nd prime. He might just be pitching an inning or two though, since he's not a normal starter. Probably bullpen by committee. This game is in Cleveland. So, he's 0-1 away. And he's never started before. Reininger is 1-1 in second half. And let's see. Caller?
Hey, is it any 105 teams out there today?
105?
Yeah, it's 105 days to the end of the year.
I didn't notice any 105 riddles today when I was going through things.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. I didn't know if there was teams with 105 riddles and stuff, because that's a lot of good energy for them to win. So, yeah, that's all I really wanted. And one more question: what time are you doing your baseball Decode tonight?
Football? We'll start at
Yes, sir.
We'll start at either 5 or 6 p.m. tonight. One of those two times. That's Pacific, so 8 or 9 Eastern. Yeah.
Oh, okay, 8 or 9 Eastern. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
All right. Have a good day.
All right, see you. All right, yeah. So he's asking, he's saying today leaves 105 days left in the year. Did I see any 105 riddles? I personally didn't catch any. This rain injury, he doesn't have any starts against the Indians. He's pitched 8.2 innings and given up 12 earned runs, so hasn't exactly pitched well against them historically. Actually, how many days is it from his birthday since he's making his first career start? January 28th. January 28th, let's see. 232 days after his birthday, or his 233rd day of his age. 51st prime, 13th Fibonacci. Well, I'll tell you what, Tigers are definitely worth a shot at your parlay multiplier. Streaks of 14 happen more often than not, so that's a good sign for the Tigers. Plutko going into Philadelphia, 65. Or 6-5, we just seen so much of that. He does have a couple riddles that could go his way. So, Tigers would definitely be a great payout tonight. Oh, you know what's funny is maybe the last caller was asking me about 105, because there actually is a 105 right in front of my face. Tigers can get their 105th loss, on the day leaving 105 days. Caller?
Hey, Zach, I just wanted to point something out. You looked up that guy's birthday, that new pitcher?
Uh-huh.
It was 233, like the score of the Cleveland game last night.
Right, exactly. And remember, 233 is the 13th Fibonacci. Number 13 had the big game, Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham equals 233. Yesterday was 16/9, like 169 as a square root of 13. So you're right, because it is Cleveland again.
Yeah, I just wanted to point it out. I didn't make a connection or anything. I don't know if that's going to go in favor for Cleveland or against them, but I just wanted to point that out. That was pretty funny.
There's definitely something to that. You're right, man, because they link these sports up. So,
Yeah. All right, man.
All right. All right. Appreciate it. So Cleveland benefited from the 233 last night. All right. Reininger is making, if I can type here, is making his first start on his 233rd day of his age. Last night, Cleveland Browns won 23-3 in NFL. 233 is the 13th Fibonacci and the 51st prime. Cleveland's 51. Cleveland's 33 and the most pure cipher. If you use the master numerology of V, it's plus 18 more, so it's 51. Just like Mono's 51, like Darnold was out with Mono last night. But yeah, that is. So anyway, for your parlay multiplier, you definitely got to use the Tigers tonight. They'd be a really great multiplier. They do have some nice things there, ending the losing streak at 14. And it's not a one-way street, though. Don't bet the house on the Tigers, but they do got some numbers. Tigers can pick up 105th loss today. Today leaves 105 days left in the year, so that's another thing. If they didn't lose, they'd go into the day leaving 104 days left in the year, still on 104 losses. So this does not mean the Tigers will lose. It's just an observation. All right. Giants at Red Sox. Again, I was saying not a lot to go off of here, but Logan Webb does have a chance to get to 2-2 for the season and career in Boston, the land of 22. Eovaldi, you can make an argument either way. Phillies and Braves. Again, Phillies are in do or die mode right now. But just looking at Keuchel's riddle, man, it does not look good for the Phillies today. Keuchel has a great riddle to win. But man, Phillies really got to win some games here. They're going to be out. Caller?
Hey, another observation. Some of those over-unders are 10.5, like 105.
On this 29 date numerology, the 10th prime, I wouldn't be surprised if we got quite a few 10-run ball games today.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, man.
All right, appreciate it. Yeah, and 10.5 is like 105, so that is true. And I'm sure that is why they did it. Again, that's why you get all the date information at the top. Pay attention to those numbers. They're going to show up in the games. You know, a game's at 10-5 today in the score, and there's a prop bet. Is there going to be any more runs? Maybe not on the 10-5 day. So, Padres at Brewers. Again, Chris Paddock can become 9-8 for the season against the perfect team, Milwaukee Brewers 98. And Woodruff could get his 12th win of the season in Milwaukee. Milwaukee 37, the 12th prime. Plus the date numerology favors the Brewers. White Sox at Twins. I think this game's really tough today, but this one could be an upset here. If the White Sox win, they're going to be 3-5 at Chicago. Chicago's 35. Twins would be 5-3 at the Target Center. Target Center 53. Yesterday the score was 5-3. And if Detweiler got the win today, he would improve to 3-5 for the season. So Detweiler does have the date numerology going against him. But that head-to-head record, the 35-53, does connect to both teams, so White Sox definitely have a chance at the upset. Perez, he could become 4-2 versus the White Sox. White Sox is 42, so not a one-way street type of game, but definitely an upset narrative on the board. The Nationals and the Cardinals, again, I think I'd have to sit this one out today. I think Mikolas has a little bit better narrative than Corbin, but still, I just don't feel good about this one. So, a little bit too tight. Reds and Cubs, like I talked about yesterday, I think the Cubs get to 9-9 versus the Reds. Wrigley 99, Illinois 99, Cubs 9. If the Reds lose today, they'll be 3-5 at Chicago. Chicago 35. Darvish's numbers make more sense with a win today. So, digging that. We talked about Verlander losing his last game. We got that right. It was a big upset. And part of the reason we liked him to lose last game was so that he could get his 223rd win tonight against the Rangers. Very appropriate team to do it against. So I do suspect Verlander picks up his 223rd career win tonight. That said, Rangers are a huge underdog. Verlander and Chris Sale have given up the biggest lines this year, far and away, those two pitchers. Mixing up your dollar parlays, your small bet, I might throw one in there with the Rangers. And realize, I mean, when you make that bet, again, it's a dollar parlay. You don't expect it to come through. You're just putting together a smart bet where if it does hit, it's going to turn your dollar into a whole bunch more dollars. The riddle is Verlander's given up the big lines this year. And if Lynn won, he'd be 43-43 away. Astros is 43. But again, the most likely narrative is Verlander getting the 223rd win. It's all about the Bush family and 3-2-2. They used to run the Rangers. They posed with Verlander, the two Bushes, after the World Series. All right, Mets and Rockies. I'm thinking the Mets are going to win tomorrow. Not today. I'm thinking they're going to give the Rockies that 39th home loss on the 39 date, which is tomorrow. Today, Stroman can get his 14th loss of the season in Colorado. Colorado 43, the 14th prime. Can fall to 2-3 with the Mets. And Melville can get his first win at home and become 1-2 at home against the Mets. Mets 12. So liking the Rockies narrative better than the Mets. And notice the Rockies would stay on 38 losses on the 38 date numerology as well. We know that's the Colorado number. So the Marlins at the D-backs. This one to me is this one's really tough here. If the Diamondbacks did win the next two, they'd go into this next series with the perfect record. But there's a lot of teeter-totter information here, so I can't say I'd be shocked if the Marlins won this game, but I am leaning Diamondbacks because of how their record would be. If the Diamondbacks won the next two, they'd be 79-74. San Diego Padres 79, San Diego 74. They play the Padres next. So I'm letting that be what tips the scales for me. The Royals and Athletics. Royals, again, won with the date numerology yesterday, giving the Athletics the 28th home loss on the 28 date. Today, the Athletics could get the 29th loss on the 29 date. Homer Bailey is pitching tomorrow and should become 14-8 by winning. Kansas City equals 148. His old team, who he should beat. So, again, we got a big upset with Homer Bailey last time. I believe that's who went up against Verlander when we got that nice game. If Homer Bailey wins tonight, or excuse me, if Homer Bailey wins tomorrow, he will be 14-8. Kansas City's 148. He was traded from Kansas City to the Athletics earlier this year. So this riddle seems perfect. So I like Homer Bailey to win tomorrow. Now, looking at these two scenarios, if Royals won next two games, well, you can almost cross that out, right? Because it doesn't look like they're going to win the next two games. It looks like Homer Bailey has them tomorrow night. But if Royals won next two games, they'd get to 58 wins. Oakland's 58. A's would stay on 90 wins. Royals 90. However, the other scenario is if the Royals lost the next two games, they would get to 97 losses. Athletics 97, Oakland Athletics 97. We've seen that all year. So looking at those being like the two most likely scenarios and looking that Homer Bailey should win tomorrow, I'm thinking, okay, maybe the A's do have this. Again, things look pretty good for Brett Anderson tonight. Brett Anderson can get that 59th career win. Kansas City Royals is 59. Lopez can become 6-7 away for his career. Kansas City 67. So I'm thinking the most likely scenario here is that the Athletics win today and tomorrow. Athletics are a big favorite at home tonight, so they're not, an exciting payout. But I'm thinking that is the way that, the series is probably going to play out here. So let you make the call. And then Rays and Dodgers. If the Dodgers lose, they're 9-7 versus the Rays all time. 97's the 25th prime. Tampa Bay's 25. From Tampa's perspective, they'd be 7-9. Tampa Bay 79. Dodgers would fall to 4-2 at home. Los Angeles Dodgers is 181, the 42nd prime, like 4-2. And if they lost the next two, they could even get to Tampa Bay Rays is 43-52. So go either way if they lost today. So we saw that Snell plays Boston next. If Snell won, he'd be 7-7. Boston 77. Red Sox 77. He'd go into that series with a perfect record. And Stripling tonight, he could get his 25th career loss against Tampa Bay 25, which would go right in line with the head-to-head record. So that's what I'm looking at today. I think there are some good games on the board again. I think if you're wise with your picks, if you structure your parlays right, could be another very positive day. So let's leave it there. If anybody else wants to call in about final thoughts, now's a good time. Otherwise, we can wrap it up. And if I can get back to work here on the football, I'll be able to start the football decode probably at 5 p.m. rather than 6 p.m. Pacific. Again, that's 8 Eastern or 9 Eastern. But got to finish up my NFL Week 2 decode. So we're ready to talk about it tonight. Because that's what's next on the plate. So check out the chat. Robert German's doing a good job at looking where the public money is. Going against the public's usually a wise decision. Caller?
Hey, Zach.
What's up?
Just to add on, I called in earlier about Felipe Vasquez. His name equals 65 as well for reduction cipher. Say has 65 day numerology, and the Pirates can stay on 65 wins.
So, and again, that's the guy who supposedly had pedophilia charges?
Right, he just got arrested today for soliciting a 13-year-old.
Okay, and again, that Marco Gonzalez riddle makes a lot of sense for the Mariners. So, yeah.
Right.
Good work. Good work. I appreciate that. All right. So he called in earlier and he pointed out there's a story in the news today about a Pirates pitcher being arrested for having child pornography on the computer. Is that what it was? Pirates pitcher. Here, we'll look up the story. Pirates pitcher arrested for child porn. His name sums to 65. His team can stay on 65 wins. Let's see. Pirates pitcher porn. Let's see what comes up. Felipe Vasquez. 28 years old. Seattle's 28 as well. We just saw that come up big. And you know what? That was a Seattle-Pittsburgh game, wasn't it? So now you have Seattle and Pittsburgh. Well, I see this guy's name equaling 54, not 65. I'm not sure where he got the 65 from. All right. Well, he might not be right about that piece. He is 28. Seattle equals 28. Just saw Seattle beat Pittsburgh in NFL with 28 points. Okay. So yeah, I think there's a good group out here in baseball. I guess we can look at this story before we wrap it up. Pittsburgh Pirates pitcher Felipe Vasquez was arrested Tuesday on charges of child pornography. What does that equal anyway? Let's see if it connects to riddles with the numbers in the game. 99, there's that 243 again. Talking about how 243 and 54 come together, right? His name was 54 as well. Computer pornography. 13-year-old girl. She's now 15. Yeah, let me look up his stats real quick. Not a starter, middle reliever. 17 and 13, 5 and 1 for the season. His birthday's July 5th. Let's see. 74 days after his birthday. Of course it is. 74. They love that number. Pirates is 47. Is Pirates 74 too? Pirates is 47. What about with the exceptions? Yeah, Pirates does have that 74 connection. They show a picture of him from September 11th, of course. All right. The Pirate... I made this note... You know what? I got to put another note up here about this Pirates game. I put a note up if the Pirates won 2. I got to put up a note if they lose 2. Let's see. Okay, so the Pirates, if they lost 2, they would get to 43rd home. Their 43rd home loss. Mariners is 43. Pirates is 43. It's the Mariners' 43rd season. That's another thing to consider. Notice Mitch Keller's 1-4 coming into the game versus the Mariners. Mariners 43, the 14th prime. Anyway, I'm going to post these notes. Again, I think we've made it clear what are the stronger picks today. So be sure to look over the notes. The things that are bolded are the things that I think are most likely to hit, the most consistent patterns with the teams. I'm going to go back to finishing up NFL Week 3 Decode. I'm going to try to be back on at 5 p.m. Pacific. At the latest, we'll start at 6 p.m. Pacific. Can add 3 hours if you're on the East Coast. So we'll leave it there. Be wise, be selective, and I'll see you guys a little bit later. Thank you, as always.